Hello people of YouTube, my name is JD Shadow. This is a special report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture on YouTube. Coming up in the show today, a bit of a sad news story. President of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, has sadly passed away at the age of 55. A lot to talk about concerning that news story. My name is JD Shadow. This special report will start right about now. Well, this is certainly not a news story that I take pleasure in reporting to you, but unfortunately it has happened. On July 11th, 2015, this past Sunday, Nintendo issued a statement saying that Satoru Iwata, the president of Nintendo in Japan, had passed away due to a bile duct growth. Basically, he had suffered from cancer. Iwata-san has spent the last couple of years, according to IGN, battling the growth discovered on his bile duct, which resulted in his absence at last year's E3. Nintendo put out a statement saying, quote, Nintendo Company Limited deeply regrets to announce that President Satoru Iwata had passed away on July 11th, 2015 due to a bile duct growth. As you may know, Iwata, according to IGN again, began working at Nintendo in the 1980s as a programmer, working at the HAL laboratory. Much of the success of Kirby can be attributed to Iwata, who created the eponymous Dreamland and Kirby's debut on the Game Boy in 1992. He became a director of the company in 2000 and was appointed president of Nintendo in May 2002. Iwata oversaw the launch of the Nintendo DS, 3DS, Wii, and Wii U. During this tenure, Iwata placed a great deal of focus on accessibility and open communication with his fans. His role as the host of the Iwata Asks series of the game developer interviews pulled back the curtain on the notoriously secretive company, and he was admired for his friendly and irreverent attitude. Iwata-san was with Nintendo through some of his best times, Wii Boom back in mid-2000s, and referenced the tough launch of its successor. Nintendo said it has not decided who the next president will be. In the meantime, Shigeru Miyamoto and Genjo Takeda will jointly run the company. And all throughout the day yesterday and of course today, there have been Twitter hashtags with the phrase "Thank you Iwata" that has been trending worldwide on Twitter. And this is basically probably one of the saddest things that has come about in recent time. Iwata had turned the company around because of the whole situation resulting from the GameCube, and he actually was somebody who wasn't afraid to pioneer. He was somebody who did create the Wii and did create the motion controller as sort of a standard now. If it wasn't for Iwata's daring to be different mentality, we wouldn't really have what we have now with the PlayStation Move, and probably sadly with the Kinect perhaps, but then again, we can't all be winners, can we? He was also synonymous with the 3DS and had a hand in making probably one of my favorite RPG series around, Mother, or as people in the States know it as Earthbound, which Earthbound Beginnings was recently released as a Wii U Virtual Console game. Basically put, this guy did a ton of stuff, and he was also known as a gamer through and through. He was known as somebody who, with the gamer, he was one of the few people in Nintendo that actually told it like it was, actually was kind to people. He was generous, he was selfless, and he was a visionary. We got Kirby out of him, we got a lot of ideas out of him, we got the Wii out of him, as we said, we got the 3DS, and we got HAL Laboratories, which was on the brink of bankruptcy when he took over. Most people don't understand that, but when he took over, HAL Laboratories was not in a good state, and then he came in and look what he did with that. He had a hand in creating just over 100 Nintendo products. Just think about that. Just think about what kind of visionary, what kind of light has to shine for somebody in order to not only do that much for a company, for two companies, HAL Laboratories and then Nintendo, and then to also have that kind of a connection between himself and the gamers. One of the most well-known quotes that he made when he was at a conference when he took over for Nintendo said, quote, on my business card, I am a corporate president. In my mind, I am a game developer, but in my heart, I am a gamer. He was one of us. He was one of the many gamers who loved his products, loved the kind of stuff that he put out there, and to have that kind of visionary leave us like that, to have that kind of visionary, to just have that kind of person just leave us, not just because he was sick or whatever, but to have his life cut short. I mean, this is a guy who probably had a lot more that he wanted to do. This guy had a lot left to do in his life, and to have it cut short by a horrific illness. Basically, this is cancer that took him. And this is another reason why Boogie said in no uncertain terms, fuck cancer. This is is a horrific disease. This is a horrific disease that cuts people's life short like this. And this is one of the reasons why we need better research in order to take out cancer, to destroy this horrific illness that has taken so many lives of so many gamers and gamer relatives and relatives of gamers, or whatever phrase, whatever wording of that phrase you might want to incorporate for this whole notion. But this is just another reason why things like what's going to happen within a couple weeks, the Summer Games Done Quick and the Awesome Games Done Quick, they raise for cancer research. They raise money for that, and that's for a great purpose, and they do a great job entertaining people by doing the one thing they do best, which is destroy old games by getting through them as quickly as they possibly can. And to have people, have gamers like that do something that would kill somebody like Iwata, to take someone like that from us, it is unfathomable how much we as gamers come together. And they should say something, it really should say something about the kindness and the notion that gamers can do something good for people. They can really come together, the people who really do care for this industry, who really do give a shit about how people perceive us, how people look at us. And to see people come together, not only to remember a guy who did so much for this industry, who did so much for gamers, who put his neck out for gamers. He was a gamer and he knew what it was like, and he took that to heart. He really did. And to see gamers not only remember who he was and what he meant and what he did for this industry, but then to say, you know what, this is a reason why we need to do something about this, so we don't hear any other stories like this. We don't hear about any other's life get cut short, because this more or less wasn't his time, and cancer came in and said, you know what, that is your time. That shouldn't be. An illness like that should not be the end game for anybody. So I'm going to give everybody a challenge. Whoever is watching the special report right now, I'm going to give everybody a challenge to donate at some point in these Summer Games Done Quick festivities, from July 26th to August 1st. That's when that's going to happen. To donate. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. It can be $1, $5, whatever you are able to give, to make sure that we as a gaming community, as gamers, not only show our compassion and our willingness to come together when real life hits us like a ton of bricks like that, but also to make sure that this does not take another life, to make sure that we find a cure for this, to make sure that we are able to do further research, to make sure that somebody like Iwata, somebody like maybe not even Iwata, maybe somebody who birthed you, maybe it'd be your mother, your father, your brother, sister, any kind of relative who you've seen cancer claim the life of. I remember it wasn't a game convention, but there was a benefit that I helped to run in which raised money for a relative of mine who was dealing with breast cancer, and we did a day-long, a nearly 12-hour day-long karaoke marathon in order to raise money for her operation, to make sure that she was able to survive through the breast cancer, which is a horrific disease for women. And that's not the only type of cancer, but that is one of the major ones you keep hearing about. That's why you see the pink ribbons and pink all over the place in October, because that's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it doesn't just have to be that month. We have to be aware of cancer through and through all year long, because you never know what's going to come tomorrow or the day after that or the day after that. So you need to be aware of this. People need to be aware of this, because what if it wasn't Iwata? What if it was somebody else who was close to you, or somebody who you cared about, or maybe your friend or a relative or something like that? And I know we're going off topic a bit because this is a Geek Gamer show, and I want to talk about happy things. I want to talk about things that we do care about. This is something we should care about, and this is something that we need to discuss, because a lot of gamers have raised money for things like UNICEF and for things like cancer research. They have done a lot of stuff like that, and to see him do that, that should show certain people that we are not bad people. It should show you the big hearts that we have. It should show you the compassion, the unbelievable compassion that we have for people. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise about the big hearts that we have as human beings, as gamers. Men, women, children, blacks, Hispanics, anybody in between. We are a welcoming group. We are a passionate group. We are a compassionate group. And this should tell you another reason why you should not believe anybody who would tell you otherwise. Now, as far as Iwata is concerned, and as far as where Nintendo would go from there, I really have no idea right at this point in time. I really am still saddened by the untimely loss of Iwata, because this is a guy who, as I said before, has done a tremendous amount for Nintendo and for HAL Laboratories. He has done so much for the company, and that's going to be some pretty big shoes they're going to have to fill. Right at the moment, Shigeru Miyamoto, who is probably the best person that they could have at the helm other than Iwata himself. And Genyo Takeda, who I am not familiar with, is running the company right at the point in time. Now, there is no way to determine whether or not they're going to announce a permanent replacement. That would be someone other than one of those two, or if one of those two are going to become the president of Nintendo of Japan. And with the struggles that Nintendo has had recently with the Wii U, although I do see it sort of improving, I would hope that there would be some announcements coming at Gamescom or the Tokyo Game Show about the future of the Wii U. I don't know if they should abandon that console quite yet, but that's for another time. It's going to be pretty hard to fill the shoes of someone who is that much of a visionary and that much of a person who dared to be different, who dared to try new things, to say, hey, we're going to go in a different path than the other guys and we're going to see how this goes, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. However, they will not follow us for not trying to do something that is outside of the norm, and he succeeded at a lot of the things that he attempted to do. You can't say that about many other people. Most of the things that he has done, he has succeeded in. Not everything turned to gold. I mean, the Wii U had some problems during the launch, but he got them through it. If it wasn't for him, who knows what could have happened from Nintendo during that launch period of the Wii U? Who knew what could have happened if it wasn't for him steering the ship? And what about that connection to gamers? I don't think many people will have that sort of connection that Iwata had. I mean, doing something that accounted to a AMA and Ask Me Anything, that's something that a lot of people should take from and should do themselves. They should have a direct connection between the gamer and the person who is creating their game. That gives the gamer a sense of understanding that the developer does care about what the gamer thinks about the game, and in turn, the developer can make games that the gamer actually wants instead of trying to rush something out there in order to satisfy the bottom line. Iwata's legacy and mourning should not be used as a political tool like some people have been doing on the internet lately. Please, people, regardless of what side of the fence you are on that particular issue, the bottom line is that someone's death should not be used as a salvo for that. Please, people, let's have some freaking common sense. We need to all take a lesson from what Iwata said about video games, and I quote, "Video games are meant to be just one thing, fun. Fun for everyone." Yes, they certainly are, including the what could be final game that he directed, a game that just came out recently known as Splatoon. Yes, that game is very fun. It certainly does show everybody just how much of a visionary he was and how much he was in tune with what the gamers actually wanted, especially knowing just what he was going through and what he eventually succumbed to. Obviously, all our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to his family as they go through this now difficult time in their life where they mourn the loss of their beloved, as we lose a true visionary and a true mind who dared to be different. As the Twitter hashtag said, thank you, Iwata. That's going to do it for this edition of the Special Report. My name is JD Shadow. That just happened.